Miss your favorite show? Download the podcast at kcaaradio.com.
KCAA.
Do you believe in a God that satisfies? Do you believe in a God that opens eyes? Do you believe in a God that tells your lies? Or do you believe in me? Do you believe in a God that brings you down? Do you believe in a God that wears the ground? Do you believe in a God that makes you bow? Or do you believe in me? Do you believe in a God that satisfies? Do you believe in a God that opens eyes? Do you believe in a God that tells your lies? Or do you believe in me? Do you believe in a God that brings you down? Do you believe in a God that wears the ground? Do you believe in a God that makes you bow? Or do you believe in me?
It's Beyond Common Sense. It's Lanny Sense with Lanny Swerdlow, KCAA's resident gay, woke, liberal, pot-smoking, race-mixing, tree-hugging, left-handed, science-affirming, Jewish, humanist, atheist, a white evangelical Christian nationalist, worst nightmare.
And welcome to tonight's show. Yeah, that's me, Lanny Swerdlow. I'm all of those things and maybe a bit more. And I want to welcome you to Lanny Sense, the show that, well, the KCA may leave no listener behind, but we don't leave anybody behind here. And listen, tonight is going to be open mic night. So I encourage you to call in, talk about anything you want, whether it's politics or religion or climate change or it's science or the weather or whatever. Give us a call tonight and we'll talk about it. 888-909-1050. Okay, but listen, before we get we're going to open the phone lines at around 7:15. But until we open them up, I'm going to do my usual little shtick about things that I feel are important. So, and things that have happened to me. And tonight I want to talk about replacing God. That's right. Replacing the irreplaceable, right? Well, listen. When I was a teen, I undertook an exploration of various mainstream religions. I had come to realize that the religion I was raised in, Judaism, where I went to Hebrew school for 3 years, participated in many Jewish rituals, and underwent a full bar mitzvah, was irrational, hypocritical, and because of their insistence that they were God's chosen people, racist. To find a religion that made sense to me, I attended the churches, synagogues, mosques, and temples of various religions, such as Protestant, Catholic, Unitarian, and other Christian denominations, as well as Islamic, Buddhist, Baha'i, Hindu, and others. I came out of all of them deeply dismayed, as none of them made any sense at all. They all, to one degree or another, discriminated, preached intolerance, and even tortured and killed those who worship some other god than their God, which of course they saw as the only true and real God. After about a year of exploration, I came to the realization that while they can't all be right, they can all be wrong. Now, I hadn't even heard the term atheism yet. I was only 14. So I didn't have a name for my conclusion that it was all nonsense. When I finally discovered that many others thought the same way and had come to the same conclusion, I felt vindicated in my knowledge that my parents, my community, the whole world was off their rocker. God believers give credit to their chosen God when anything good happens and hold it blameless when horrors befall them, their family, their community, the world. I always wince when I hear someone who survived a tragedy, like a tornado, praise God for sparing their lives, but never criticizing God for the same tornado that killed 29 other people. When something bad happens to a God believer, all too often they blame themselves for being bad, or blame the devil, or anything except the very God who, since it knew it was going to happen, chose not to do it or not to prevent it from happening. Oh yes, I know that God moves in mysterious ways and we cannot know his motives. But usually people who move in mysterious ways with inexplicable motives are relegated to mental institutions. Considering all the people in the world who have obtained wealth, in all kinds of nefarious ways that actually caused great harm and suffering, and that this God, rather than punishing them, allowed them to retain their vast wealth, luxurious lifestyle, and eminent social status, I would think that a God believer would be kind of pissed. After all, if your boss gave a raise to someone who didn't deserve it, and you did deserve it because you towed the line and produced excellent work, you wouldn't think very highly of your boss and might even start looking for a new one. Of course, you might overlook it because your boss moves in mysterious ways. When something bad happens to a God believer, do they see themselves as Job and being tested? If a teacher treated a student like God treated Job in order to see how much the student trusts him, the teacher would have their teaching credential revoked and possibly go to jail. Unquestioning fealty to a God is just another irrational rationalization of why bad things happen to good people. This gets God off the hook for bearing any responsibility of the evils that befall individuals God believes and continues to befall the billions of people alive today when they believe it's God or not, whether they believe it's God or not. What would you think of a person who saw a major tragedy befalling a group of people that would result in many deaths, and although that person had the means to prevent it, decided that they should just stand by and let it happen? That is exactly what God does all the time. So if there really was a God, I would not want to have anything to do with it, just like I would not want to associate with a person who could have prevented a major tragedy and chose not to prevent it even though they could. In reality, when it comes to belief in a God, there really is very little difference between an atheist and a theist. There have been 5,000 plus gods and deities in recorded human history that have been worshipped and venerated by people and civilizations. Most of them have rejected all of them except for one, the one God that they have chosen to believe in. The only difference between an atheist and a theist is that an atheist rejected one God more than most theists. Many millennia ago, belief in a God may have held ancient tribal entities together. Humanity does not need that crutch anymore. In fact, that crutch can prevent us from ever being able to function on our own. The wisdom we seek and the better life we want to experience is found in science. From the explanation for how we came to be, how the world and the universe work, and most importantly, how we factually and accurately determine what is true and what is false, is firmly and rationally grounded in science. The scientific method has only been understood and applied for about 400 years, and yet look at how it has so improved humanity. Life expectancy exponentially up, infant mortality even more exponentially down, diseases cured, accidents healed. From dentistry to anesthesia, our lives have been immeasurably improved. None of these advances would have happened waiting for God to make it so that you didn't need glasses. Praying to God never cured anyone from anything, but calling for a doctor has. From surgeries to the understanding of evolution, which is the foundation of modern biology, science provides an understanding of everything from the origin of disease to the origin of humanity. God belief only got in the way of science in bringing these benefits to fruition. Unfortunately, God belief continues to get in the way of science making our lives better and explaining our place in the universe. Yes, some of the discoveries of science have caused major problems, but science did not cause these problems. It is humanity's choice in how to use science that caused these problems. Discovery of the atom and radiation led to the atomic bomb, but it also led to cancer, radiation, therapy, new sources of energy, and an understanding of how the universe works. From genetics to DNA and GMO foods that can feed the world, science works. Once again, science warns that the population explosion is unsustainable, but because of the God belief, the warnings of science are just not ignored, but discouraged. Science has even given humanity the tools to allow this vast increase in the numbers of humans on this planet. but science warns the extensive use of tools to provide a living for all people on this planet are responsible for a myriad of problems, from pollution to global warming. To prevent this from happening, science gives us humane tools to prevent overpopulation. However, not totally, but certainly substantially, these tools are prevented from being used because of belief in a religion with a God that demonizes their use. Of course, I recognize that a God isn't doing any of these things. That which does not exist cannot do anything. However, the people who speak for this mythological God are the ones responsible for the horrors of the past, the horrors continuing today, and the horrors of the future. The concept of and belief in a God is what gives them their power. I recognize that one of the irrational benefits that God belief gives is freeing people from the fear of death. For some reason beyond all comprehension, people want to live forever. A mythological soul has been given by God only to humans, so they will survive and never die, but live forever and over and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Why would anyone want to live for all eternity? The universe has been around for 15 billion years or so, and the current universe is expected to be around another 100 trillion years, or until it finally descends into whatever it descends into. I can't imagine thinking, after being alive a couple billion years, let alone a couple trillion, a person would literally be bored to death. Speculating about eternal life is silly. What science has taught me is that I am just as a speck of a speck in the universe, and that my life is of no more consequence than a single grain of sand on a beach or on the planet of some distant star billions of light years away. There is no reason or purpose for my existence or anything else in the universe. Reason and purpose are human-created concepts. Me, you, the world, the universe, there is no reason or purpose for it. It just is. I'm not afraid of being dead. Being dead is like being before the sperm from your dad implanted in the leg of your mother. You didn't exist then, and you were not alive then, and after you die, you don't exist then either, because you're once again not alive. I am so thrilled to be alive, even if it's just for a relatively brief period of time. I'm not afraid to be dead, because I cannot be dead unless I was once alive. I am eternally, ecstatically grateful that I have been able to experience what life is like to be alive, and no matter how brief that experience might be. And that is my little thing to talk about. You're replacing God. You're not replacing God. There's nothing to replace. You just got to do it. So, hey, all right. But it looks like we have a caller. Is that right? So we have two callers. That's even better. Two callers is better than one caller. And so, who is our first caller? Welcome to the show. Sylvia?
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Hi, Sylvia.
Yes.
Welcome to Lanny Sense.
Thank you. Thank you for having this. Thanks for having me.
It's a thrill having you. So what is going through your mind that you would like to discuss and bring to the attention of our listeners?
Thank you so much for having the space for us to tell you about what our concerns are. Very awesome. Right now, I guess I'm thinking about the election, pretty big on my mind, and I am going to vote for Kamala Harris, and the reason is because I'm a grandmother to two beautiful granddaughters, and reproductive rights are extremely important. My granddaughters have less rights than I did growing up across this country. Rapists have more rights than my granddaughters do. And
if the Republicans get their way, your granddaughter's going to have even fewer rights than they have right now.
Exactly. And not only in some states across this country will you go to jail for an abortion, but so will your doctor.
Yeah.
The other thing, too, is just how creepy it is that also in those same Republican states, if a woman is tracking her menstrual cycle on an app, they are subpoenaing those so that they can use them against the woman and jail her, and use it against the doctors and jail them as well.
Can I ask you a question here? There's an app about menstrual cycles?
Women use apps to help them track their cycles if they're trying to get pregnant, or just to kind of give them an idea when it's coming, just to be better prepared.
Really?
And so what's creepy about it is that I guess the men found out about it and now want to use it against the women. Yes.
They want to use
to find out.
They want to use
to
this
find
app
out whether
about,
or not they were pregnant and if they got an abortion yet.
So these anti-abortionists want to use this app to go after women? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
And how would they do that?
They subpoena.
Oh. And they could do that in anti-abortion states where they say...
In those states.
Yeah.
Where they have governors that are Republicans and don't care yet.
Gotcha.
Also,
I hadn't heard about that. That's fascinating. Fascinating.
It's really scary. And I really worry mostly for university students. You know, my granddaughters will be university students one day. Also, this will really affect women of color and women of less means. You know, rich women could probably always go out of state and go get an abortion, go to California, take a vacation. But women of no means or less means, they're trapped.
This is mainly affecting poor women. Rich women, well-to-do women, they can afford to travel out of state. But people of lower economics who don't have the money, they're stuck.
Yes. University women, you know, students, they're not all wealthy, you know, and how are they going to keep that from, you know, let's say even if they are wealthy students, how are they going to keep that from daddy? You know, they were raped, you know, and now they're pregnant and they can't continue with their studies.
And what's even more frightening is that they want to make contraception illegal as well. They want to overturn the Supreme Court decision that says that that's a private affair. They want to make contraception illegal. That would really, can you imagine that?
Yes, it's happening. Yes, it's very scary.
Yeah.
Yes, that my granddaughters would be forced to keep a rapist baby. Very scary. And also, unfortunately, because the Catholic Church is mostly run by men, they're very anti-abortion. They don't realize that women get raped, I guess.
Well, you know, it's that they've said if men could get pregnant, the Catholic Church would have abortion would be a sacrament.
Exactly. So those are my big concerns today, and that's why I'm going to be voting the way I'm going to be voting. Be voting for a woman, for women's rights.
Well, you know,
my granddaughter's rights.
Voting for a woman is really, when I vote, and sometimes some of these elections, you know, especially these down ballot elections, I have no idea about any of these candidates who are running. So sometimes I don't vote. But if there is a woman running, I generally vote for the woman because she's a woman, because I really feel men have screwed things up so bad that, you know, let's let women try running things more. We probably would be doing a lot better.
Okay, so awesome, Mr. Swirlo. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for calling in, Sylvia.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
You have a wonderful show. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was Sylvia. I didn't ask her where she's from, but I imagine she's in the area. Did you get that? You didn't get it, Eric? You know, I should have asked her. Well, anyway, thank you, Sylvia, for calling in. Yes, and I certainly understand why you were voting for Kamala Harris and not Donald Trump. I can't imagine why any self-thinking woman, rational woman, would want to vote for a man who says, "Grab him by the pussy. You can do anything you want." You know, that really boggles my imagination. Is that, you know, could you imagine if Biden had said that, grab him by the pussy? The Republicans would be up in arms. You can't have a man who says that, but because it's a Republican, not only is it okay, this person is a gift from God. So anyway, unbelievable. Anyway, do we have another caller? Harvey. Okay, Harvey, welcome to Lanny Sense. We're glad to have you join us tonight.
Yeah, I have one cannabis question and one political comment.
Okay.
I've been reading different articles on, and these are physicians that are writing these, on sleep and cannabis. And some are saying it really doesn't matter what strain you use; they're all basically the same. It's like, people have a placebo effect in terms of what their expectations are.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just read this one that high doses of THC are associated with negative changes in sleep, and that certain terpenes like limonene, pinene, and terpinolene, which are in strains like haze, different strains of haze, Durban Poison, Green Crack, and Pineapple Express, have a tendency to be really bad for sleep. And I'm wondering if you have, any knowledge about that and experience with that.
Well, first off, let me talk about strains. Strains, as far as I'm concerned, are nonsense. And the reason I say that is because you can't test for a strain. There is no test that's going to determine that this is Purple Urkel, or this is White Widow, or this is Charlotte's Web, or this is Jack Herer. There is no test for that. So if you can't test for it, it doesn't exist. And I used to be part of a dispensary, and we would buy, something from some grower that they said, oh, yes, this is White Widow. And, well, how do we know it's White Widow? We're taking their word for it. It is nonsense. Mm-hmm. The only real thing you can be is when you go to a dispensary, and this is why you want to go to a dispensary and not a black market dealer, is because that product has been tested. And on the label, it says what's the percentage of THC, what's the percentage of CBD. Hopefully the terpenes are all on there listed and all this kind of stuff as well. And that is what's going to tell you how the product works. And if you want to use it for pain, for example, and you don't want to get too out of it, then you're going to want to get a product that has low THC and high CBD. That you want to go. Now, as for sleep, cannabis has been used for insomnia for thousands and thousands of years. If some cannabis is very high in THC, for some people that helps them go to sleep, but for some other people that keeps them awake. So you just kind of have to try, find out what works for you, and that's what I could say about all cannabis. If you're looking for a specific reason, you can go to the dispensary and say, hey, I want something for insomnia, or I want something for movement disorders, or I want something for pain, and they will suggest something. Try it and see if it works. If it works, great. You found something, go back to that dispensary and get the same product. The only problem is that 3 months later, they may not be able to get the same product, and they're going to have something else there with the same name on it, and they're going to be selling it. This is the problem with buying based on a strain, because there's no way that a strain tells you don't know, because it's White Widow, that the White Widow you're getting 3 months later are from the dispensary down the street a mile or two is the same White Widow. You just don't know. And so that's why the only way I will feel something safe in buying something is by analyzing the label, the label that the laboratory has tested, and they tell you what the percentage of THC and CBD and all the other things in it, and you should know. And your thing about the terpenes is absolutely right on, Harvey. Absolutely right on. The terpenes are very important, and they've been kind of ignored in favor of all the cannabinoids. But we're just learning about the terpenes, and we have to learn a lot more in how they play in the way they affect you when you consume cannabis. That's not the answer you wanted, was it?
well, I understand it because in one of your shows a while back, there you were discussing that there was a testing company that was testing, and they were actually inaccurate tests.
Yes,
and we really don't know even with the test.
That's absolutely true. A lot of the testing companies were testing, and they were claiming, since the dispensaries pay the testing companies give them the results that the dispensaries want, so they can charge higher prices for the product. No, some of these labs, have been closed down, and it seems to me there's got to be some kind of, I don't know, some kind of association of labs or something where they ascribe to certain ethics, and they themselves have their product periodically pulled that they've tested, and then they have it retested by another lab that agrees, yeah, your testing is accurate, or no, your testing is not accurate. And what it turned out was a lot of these labs that were being tested and selling products at dispensaries, when their tested products were tested, they didn't test the same as the lab claimed they were, and there was a lot of. Now, some labs did test properly, and but once again, this is a problem of this Wild West market we still have with cannabis. And hopefully it's going to shake out as time goes on. But once again, and the thing is, and here's the crazy thing, of course, we've been using cannabis for millennia. And until recently, nothing was tested. You just got it on the criminal market, and it was never tested. And they talk about the dangers of cannabis, like, oh, it's, they say, you want to buy it from a product's been tested with no contaminants in it. Yeah, that's true. You really want to do that. And of course, when you buy a lab tested product, they'll say there's no pesticides in it and all this kind of stuff. Although some of the labs testing that in this big brouhaha, in which some of the labs said there wasn't any, in fact there was. But the fact is, people have been smoking and consuming cannabis for thousands of years, and until recently, none of the stuff was tested, and it's never been a problem. Our emergency rooms are not overrun with people being poisoned from smoking cannabis. And so it's just it's kind of a red herring in a way. It's not that I'm against testing. I think if you're paying for a product, you go to a store and you buy a candy bar, you have the right to know that candy bar is free from any kind of poisons or contaminants or anything like that. And I believe if you go to a dispensary and you pay cash or you pay credit card or whatever for some cannabis, you have the right to know that it's pesticide free and what its ingredients are. But that's just because I think you have the right. But it's not because I'm saying, oh my God, if you use cannabis that hasn't been tested, you're going to get sick and you're going to die and you're going to wind up, because it just hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. I've been smoking cannabis for long before it was legal, long before, and I've never had any problems. And I can't think of anybody I've ever known that has had any problems. I'm not saying that there hasn't been some problems out there. There certainly has. But the percentage of problems from people consuming cannabis is so small compared to anything else, any alcohol, of course, tobacco, of course, medications, of course, and a lot of products you just buy off the shelf, foods and kind of stuff. People have more reactions to peanuts, for example, especially if they have peanut allergies and stuff, than they do to cannabis. So you just have to find out what works for you, and it really is unfortunately a matter of trial and error until you find something that really does help you for sleep or help you with movement disorders or helps you with pain. And then your ability to try to get it again 3 or 4 months down the lane is going to be problematic unless you know exactly what percentage THC you want and CBD and which terpenes you want. And of course, if you grow your own. If you grow your own, you know it's going to be pure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the other statement I was going to make was I grew up at a time when women could not get birth control.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So did I.
And they had to, in fact, without their husband's permission. And anybody who, if women did get it, they had to get like a bogus doctor's prescription for it. Basically, they were told they had dysmenorrhea, and it was for the treating that. It wasn't for birth control. And
right.
Now the Republicans want to go back to that again. This is, they don't want abortions. They're against abortions, and, I can see that point of view. But if you don't want abortions, why not allow birth control? But they don't want abortions and they don't want birth control. And to me, the birth control issue is purely a religious.
It's because they want to control women's bodies.
That's right. It's a control. They're control.
It's all about control, and women should have no reproductive rights at all, even to the point of taking contraceptions. And of course, it's all steeped in religion. Right.
I know. Yeah. It's right out. I understand that. But it's really irritating that we're going back, 60 or 70 years. We're not going forward. We're going backwards.
It's unbelievable this is happening, and it's what's happened, of course, is it's in a way, we've put these ridiculous conservatives on the Supreme Court, and who are now, they're religious fundamentalists, Christian nationalists. They're on the Supreme Court, and they control the Supreme Court now. So they have overturned Wade, and they're making noises. You read Clarence Thomas's decision in the Dobbs decision, in which we need to relook at same-sex marriage. We need to look at contraception. All these things we need to relook and reverse these decisions by the Supreme Court. That contraception, once again, should be made illegal. That same-sex marriage should be made illegal again. Yeah, and it's it's a terrible thing. And I like to talk about the fact, why did this happen? How did this happen? It happened when you get down to it because Hillary Clinton ran a very poor presidential election campaign. She never went to Michigan once. They just totally ignored the swing states. I don't know what their people were thinking, but we've got this ridiculous electoral college system here, which makes 7 or 8 states, gives them all the power to decide what's going to happen in this country. And unfortunately, these 7 or 8 states basically are Republican states.
I know. It's scary. It's scary,
One of the things, if Harris wins, and if she's strong enough to actually help keep the Senate in control of the Democrats and return the House to Democratic control, they should immediately go about, redoing the Supreme Court. And my suggestion is that they increase the number to 13. Which there's a rational reason for that number. The number 9 is just pulled out of somebody's hat. There's a rational reason for 13 justices, and that is because there's 13 appellate courts. And right now, each judge on the Supreme Court is given a certain appellate court to look over. And so some of the judges share, some have more than one court. But if there's 13, that means each Supreme Justice will have one appellate court that they're looking for. So that makes a rational reason why there should be 13 justices. But that won't happen as long as Republicans. And then, of course, we need to pass a constitutional amendment doing away with the Electoral College and make it to a national vote of the people of the United States that.
Right. Yeah, I agree 100% with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Electoral College is based on, post-Civil War politics. It has nothing to do with modern day, and you have little states that have less people than San Bernardino living in them.
Not post-Civil War, pre-Civil War. It was done at the beginnings to appease the slave states, to get them to have them agree to become part of the Confederation, and eventually the constitutional thing. It was put in the Constitution. They got a slave was 2/3 of a person, and this electoral college was put up so that it would be dominated by the big states. And of course, that was why the U.S. Senate was put in there. U.S. Senate, Wyoming they have 2 senators, but only 1 House of Representative member a vote in like Wyoming is 30 times as much weight as a vote from a person in California. It's crazy.
It is. It's totally nuts. Yeah, I agree.
Well, thank you, Harvey. Thank you so much. Yeah. Where do you live, by the way?
San Bernardino.
Oh, you live in San Bernardino. So you're in KCAA territory. That's really cool.
Yeah, I'm right here.
All right. Well, anything else, or thank you very much for calling in.
Okay, take care.
Thank you, Harvey. I really appreciate you calling in. Call again.
Okay, will.
Thanks. Bye-bye. That was Harvey from San Bernardino. Okay, and San Bernardino is it's a wonderful county, and Riverside and San Bernardino are both wonderful counties, and they're made for each other. I'm not going to go into why that's so true, but it's true. Oh, okay. We have another caller on the line, Terry.
Yes. Hi, Lanny.
Hi, Terry. This is for those of you who don't know. This is Terry Tescheron, and no, Turner.
That's my username.
Yeah, it's Terry Turner. Terry was on our show about a month or so ago, and he talked about Oregon having legalized psilocybin for therapeutic use to help people, mature, whatever it is. And he lived here in the Inland Empire, and he was so excited by this availability of this ancient plant to help people with their consciousness, that he moved up to Oregon and went through the entire course to become a licensed therapist to provide psilocybin. And he has now received his license, and he's setting up his program in which it's going to be available. Tell us about what's happening with you now, Terry. Now that you're a licensed psilocybin, you're not a therapist, a licensed psilocybin.
Not a therapist, licensed psilocybin facilitator.
Facilitator. That's the word I was trying to use.
Facilitator, that's a good word. Some people think about psychedelic guides, but facilitator is a better word because in psilocybin services in Oregon, it's a non-directive process. It's a non-directive process, so we're not guiding people. But when you say a facilitator, we try to make it easy for them. Although these experiences are not necessarily easy, but we support them in their journey in preparing for it, in experiencing it, and then integrating it afterwards.
Well, it would seem for some people, somebody who has never done anything like that it could be a very, it could be almost traumatic if they're not in a situation in which they feel comfortable and safe.
Well, that's very important, and that's why, of course, set and setting, we say. Set is what you bring to your journey, which is your set, your expectations, and all the rest. And the setting is, of course, we, in Oregon, these experiences must take place in licensed service centers, and they're usually well furnished. They're not clinical at all. They have couches. They have artwork on the walls. We have supportive music going on. And of course, a licensed facilitator is supervising them at all times. So it is a very safe space. And as we work with them in the preparation sessions, we hope that we build a rapport with them. We hope that they come to trust us at least enough to have their back so they can let go fully and have the deepest and most meaningful experience possibly of their lives.
So actually, they meet with you and they discuss this thing well before they actually go in for a session with the psilocybin, so that you've talked with them quite a bit beforehand.
Yes, we do it. We look at their medical history, we look at their psychological history, we help them set intentions, and so there's a screening that takes place, and so everything, the main thing in Oregon, we want it to be a safe experience. So we go through all that stuff, and then you help them set intentions, and basically psilocybin is considered a safe substance when it's used in that context, when it's used in a safe and supported environment.
Well, it really is pretty safe. It's been around for a long, long time, and people really don't die from using psilocybin, unlike tobacco, let's say.
No, but if they use it alone and they don't, have adequate preparation, or they're in a insecure or unsafe environment, and certainly they can have a lot of panic reactions and that sort of thing.
Oh, absolutely. But isn't it, after you've taken it a few times and you're used to it, is it really necessary to be in a guided? I mean, under Oregon law, you only can do it in a guided situation. Isn't that correct?
That's right. But having taken it a few times, it may be that what it is.
You're breaking up, Terry. Hold on. Our engineer's trying to get you back on. Are you there?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. We got you back on.
Yeah. Well, each journey, though, is a thing unto itself. So you could have had a dozen journeys and they all went fine and swimmingly, and that 13th journey could be something else. How do they say in investments? Past results, past don't guarantee future results, or something like that.
Absolutely.
Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. So each journey is a journey unto itself. So it's when you get a little too cocky with it. Oh, I don't need a guide this time, and that's when all hell can break loose.
So tell me about how you are setting up now so that you can provide facilitation of cannabis. You had written me that you were setting up some things. Could you tell us about that? I think
regulated things.
I think we're having a little trouble here. We're losing you. Wait. All right, let's try it again. I think we can get you back on.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah. So, anyway, I've got some insurance. I partnered with a couple of the licensed service centers in the Portland metro area, and so I'm basically ready to go at this point. I have a few ways that I'm promoting to various folks. And, of course, the main thing to know, since many people are hearing this program are in California, is that it is available to folks out of state. And you don't have to do the preparation sessions in Oregon. You can do it online, and the integration, you can do those online. We do the whole screening thing, and then if you decide you want to do it, then you make an appointment with the service center, and you come up to Oregon, and then I'll take you from there. And I'm basically ready for, open for business. My official fictitious business name is Guide 7, even though I don't guide, I facilitate, but it looks good on a license plate. And anyway, should anyone be interested, you mentioned Teshuron before, but my email address is teshuron5695@gmail.com if anyone is interested. And I'm offering complimentary 20-minute consultations, which is it's kind of a high-level screening you can find out if psilocybin is a good fit for you, and then, go from there.
I have to ask this question. You mentioned insurance. You got insurance for like a doctor gets malpractice insurance?
Yes.
Really? So there's insurance companies writing insurance for psilocybin. That's
for legal psilocybin for facilitators. Yes, they are. It when a year ago that wasn't, it was kind of in the air, but yes, there are. There's at least one company, the one I'm using, that does that. Yes, they do, and it's not cheap, but it's good to have if you're in a position like me, where there's people that are taking these journeys are there's a calculated risk. Well, there's a calculated risk for the facilitators too. It's not so we want to go in with our eyes open. We want to have some protection and so, it's good that's available.
What does insurance protect? How does it protect the patient? How does it protect you?
Well, it doesn't protect the patient. It protects me against any kind of claims of malpractice, whatever that might be. There are certain exclusions, but if it protects me against frivolous lawsuits, I guess, if someone wanted to blame me because they had a bad trip, or or I don't know if it protects me against if someone's boyfriend, they dumped him as a result of insights from their psilocybin journey, and then the boyfriend's going to blame me for giving them these mushrooms. I don't know. There's all kinds of people thinking up ways to sue people out there, and just want to be covered.
That is too funny. Hey, I took my psilocybin trip and I realized I don't love my boyfriend anymore.
And then the boyfriend takes offense to it.
Takes it out on you. I see. So
Yeah.
they sues you for alienation of affection.
for damages, for irreparable damage, whatever they call it. Who knows? You know?
But now, of course, when you take this, you sign all kinds of waivers, don't you? You sign, I assume all responsibility and so forth and so on, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I think the service center has them sign a waiver, and in some cases that covers the facilitator as well. But the service center also, is taking a risk because if they slip and fall in the service center, stuff like that, all those typical things. So, it's.
If you invite a person to come over to your house and they slip and fall, they can sue you, and that's why you need to have homeowners insurance or renters insurance.
Well, that's right. It's an unpredictable world, and people want certainty. And I don't know. What can I say?
What can you say? You're saying the right thing. So have you actually had any clients yet?
No, I've only been licensed for about a month. So none yet. It's let me say that it's not a cheap ticket. When you have all these licenses in place and so forth, and training and all the rest, it's not a cheap ticket. But my prices are probably the lowest in the business, and there's three costs to it. There's the cost of the facilitator, his time or her time. And then there's the cost of renting the room in the service center for the journey, and then there's also the cost of the psilocybin, which runs about $6 per milligram plus 15% tax. And so if you take an average dose of 25, or let's say you took 30 milligrams, that's $180 plus your tax on that. So there's some cost there.
That $180 is not a bad cost. So a lot of medications cost thousands of dollars. So $180 is not out of line.
That's right. But in any case, the thing to keep in mind with this is that, done in the way that we just described, supervised and controlled, and of course, the mushrooms are. Excuse me. The mushrooms are all grown under controlled conditions, and they're laboratory tested. But anyway, having a journey like that under those conditions with quality control and all the rest and supervision could be, there's a real possibility that could be among the most meaningful experiences of one's life. And so what kind of price do you put on something like that? That's the way I look at it.
It absolutely can be one of the most meaningful experiences of your life. I have talked with many people over the years who have said their experience with psilocybin or LSD or that kind of was the most eye-opening and meaningful experience of their life. And back when I was in college and I did take some LSD, it really was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. I don't know if it was most meaningful, but it was certainly an incredible, and I miss it. I took 2 LSD trips, and they were both absolutely wonderful, and I wish I could get my hands on clean LSD again. But I'm not holding my breath of that ever happening. But maybe I should come up and be your first patient with psilocybin, because I would really like to experience that experience I had over 50 years ago when I was in college. And I would think the psilocybin experience probably is somewhat in some way similar to LSD.
Well, of course, lots happened since college. To have that particular experience might not be realistic, but you would have a psychedelic journey for sure, and whatever. And what I know for a fact from my own experience is that these substances have an uncanny way of giving you just exactly the experience you need at the moment, based on what you're holding in your consciousness or what you're not holding in your consciousness, and it's just uncanny the way the inner healer is activated, and you see just what you need to see in those things.
You know, I've talked to a lot of people who have had these experiences, and almost every one of them is so glad and had a wonderful experience. And unlike, let's say, alcohol, where many people remember having some horrible experiences with alcohol, and it's very common to have a horrible experience with alcohol, it's not very common to have a horrible experience with these consciousness-raising medicines, plant-based substances like psilocybin. Usually it comes out very good, just like you said. And when it's in a guided situation by a person like you, especially, Terry, it's going to come out, I agree with you, one of the most meaningful experiences of their life.
Reiterate something that I said at my webinar in the introductory remarks, and this goes for psychedelic experiences in general, but certainly psilocybin in particular. The psychedelic experience is both very beautiful and
we've lost him after beautiful. Terry?
It's very. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
It's very beautiful because it shows you. It can take you to that place of oneness. You can have a unitive experience where your ego is dissolved, and the glory of being one with all of the cosmos. But it's very difficult because
Terry, we're losing you again. But listen, we're going to have to wrap this up anyway because we've only got 2.5 minutes left of the show. So, Terry, thank you so much for calling in, and I'm really pleased that you have got your license. And seriously, I am really going to think about coming. I need an excuse to come to Oregon, and having the psilocybin experience with you would certainly be one of the most rational reasons I could possibly think of for wanting to come back and visit my friends and where I used to live in Oregon. Well, listen, that's it for the show tonight. I want to thank everyone who called in. I want to thank Sylvia. I want to thank Harvey. And, of course, I want to thank Terry for calling in. Hey, next week we're going to be running an old show again. But the following week I will be back, and I may have a guest, but the guest may be you calling in. And by the way, speaking about being on the show, we could use a couple advertisers on the show. If we have our callers in, we have a lot of people listening to the show every week. And if you would like to get your product or your information about whatever it is you want to our listeners, you can do it right here on KCA Radio. Advertising rates are very reasonable. Either drop me a line at my email address, which is rnlanny@aol.com, or call the KCA Radio and ask for Mark Westwood, who is the advertising executive. Until next week, I want to thank you so much for joining us on Lanny Sense, the show that, well, I don't know, it's unlike any other show ever heard anywhere before. Good night.
NBC News on KCAA Loma Linda, sponsored by Teamsters Local 1932, protecting the future of working families. Teamsters 1932.